Hello everybody and welcome to the 102nd Live Learn Lunch with the IEP. We're very excited today to be joined by one of our fellows, Jane Hinken from White Rose Training, and today we will be talking about accredited learning with the IEP and the IEP Learning Academy. And then this really fits in with our IEP vision. Most of you who join our sessions are members, so you will know that our vision at the IEP is that employability professionals everywhere are the best that they can be. And in order to support you with doing that, we look to empower individuals within the sector, champion employability, secure employers' recognition throughout industry, and create a network of opportunity. And key to being able to achieve those steps are to make sure that we have opportunities for learning and development in place. Now, most of you, if you are members, will have completed the IEP Level 2 sector induction. If you haven't and you're a member, or if you haven't and you'd like to, you can get in touch with me at helen.lee@iemployability.org and we can get you enrolled on that. The IEP sector induction is a fantastic entry-level piece of learning that gives you a really solid underpinning knowledge of all of the variety of knowledge and things that employability practitioners need to know. But what next? What do you want to do next? What's the next in the journey when you want to develop practice and prove your capability within the sector? And that's what today's session is about. It's about telling you what next and then just sharing some information around that. So what we're going to do, and this might seem a bit strange, we're going to start off and Jane's going to talk to us as a deliverer of the Level 4 Employability Practitioner Apprenticeship Standard. That's a mouthful for a lunchtime. And she's going to talk to us about what's in that practitioner standard and what's involved, what are the skills, knowledge, behaviours, all of the components that come together, and answer any questions that you may have around that. And then later on, I'm going to talk about the IEP certificate in employability practice. So for some of you, you may choose not to undertake an apprenticeship, and there are options for you, and I will be taking us through that. Okay. So with no further ado, I'm going to hand you over to Jane and she's going to talk to you. But guys, I'm going to be in the background. I'm going to be answering any questions that you have in chat or making sure that Jane sees them. So please do anything that pops into your head. There's no such thing as a silly question. There's only questions that engage and start discussion. So please do share through the chat throughout the session. Over to you, Jane.
Thank you very much. So my aim now is to give you a clear idea of what the apprenticeship of employability practitioner actually includes. So I'm just trying to get to the beginning of this so we can take you through it. Am I sharing that correctly, Helen? Is it up?
Yes, yep, we can see that.
Good, I've got it. Right, okay, so we're talking about the Employability Practitioner, which is a Level 4 apprenticeship. And this is an extract from the actual standard. This is what it says it aims to actually cover. It's for somebody who's working with service users who are distanced furthest from the labour market. And these are the typical sort of job titles that the people who wrote the standard expected it to be useful for. So you can see it's quite comprehensive, quite far-ranging. And the first thing that we think about when we think about the standard are the actual duties that the employability practitioner is required to perform as part of their job and as part of the standard. This particular standard actually identifies 7 things or 7 duties that they reckon are part of the job. And looking at them, I don't think there's anything that we would take exception to. It's all things that we do, and it's very well aligned to the aims and values of IEP. So these are all the things that you do, and these are all the things that are addressed within the actual standard. So having the concept of a duty is unusual. It isn't in all apprenticeship standards, but it is in this one, and it's also in the career development professional, which is the level 6 standard, which I think we'll talk about another day. We'll start with this one today. That's enough to be going on with. But with all apprenticeships, they all include the concept of knowledge, skills, and behaviours. These are the things that you have to demonstrate in order to complete your apprenticeship. So to put that simply, the knowledge things are the things you've got to know about. The skills are the things you've got to be able to do. And the behaviours are how you actually act, or how you actually perform, how you behave in front of your clients and colleagues and other stakeholders. So all apprenticeships have this element of knowledge, skills, and behaviours. The difference with Employability Practitioner is that those behaviours are then clustered together to form the duties. So any of those duties that we just had on the previous slide would be a cluster of things you've got to know about, things that you've got to be able to do, and things that you've got to be show how you behave. Okay, a bit of a weird concept, but I'm just going to plough on so that you get a good understanding of what the apprenticeship actually is. So what does the apprenticeship actually look like? I think there are some sort of really main points that we can start with. It's meant to last around 24 months. Now, obviously, I'm speaking for all training providers to an extent that deliver the standard, but obviously know much more about White Rose training. So for us, we also have a 15-month programme for people that want to sort of fast track their way through it. We deliver our apprenticeship by having interactive training events, and these are once a month for us. They're all virtual, but they are definitely interactive. And we give people assignments following those days, which are focused on the duties. And it's things like write a report on something, or it will be write a set of questions that relate to the worksheets that we've done in the training session, or write up a case study of a service user that you've worked with. The other thing we have is we have tutor support. We have a coach for everybody as well, who is very easy to contact. And you have the trainer support. So there's lots of different sorts of support so that you can get hold of somebody if you need help. And then the other main issue, which is quite a contentious one with apprenticeships, is the requirement that you have 20% of your time in your job is apportioned to your apprenticeship. Now, in the simplest format of that might be 1 day a week, but it is, in my experience, it is never 1 day a week. It will be the training time. So for us, that's the 1 day a month. And then it'll be other meetings that you have with your assessor and your tutor. It's the time that you spend doing your assignments, which is probably dotted around the week. It's professional development that's related to your apprenticeship. For example, you might do a bit of work shadowing, or you might attend some networking events, which you might have done anyway as part of your job, but they're related to your apprenticeship, and so it therefore is included. Now I'm going to go through each of those points in a bit more detail and actually show you what the learners say. I thought the easiest way to develop an understanding of the apprenticeship was for us to talk to our learners and for them to sort of tell you what they thought. We've done all this very last minute, I'm afraid. I wasn't very organised. This was all in the last week. But they've given us pretty honest answers of what they think about the process. So this is Laura, who works for People Plus, and she's in a prison in the Northeast. And she seems to feel that it's a good way of developing her skills. She also appreciates the fact that she's got help with her work when she's stuck. A bit embarrassed to put that last bit down, and I'm probably going to prove it wrong in a minute because I'm going to show you a snippet of our training. But she does appreciate the training that she's getting, and I think that's, well, it's certainly good to know from my point of view. Let's see if I can show you a real example. So we picked an extract from one of our workshops, which is on information and assessment of service users. And at the risk of disproving what Laura just said, I'll just show you how that works so you can see how our actual training sessions look, and you can see that you're not in a particularly threatening environment. I showed you what the next one was, which is asking what you think labour market intelligence is and where you can get sources of that, and what you think LMI does to benefit our clients. So let's do this one together rather than split into groups. So we've got a definition of labour market intelligence. I struggle to really understand exactly what it means, to be honest with you. So to get like present moment, we use information to see what skills that we're looking for to employ the men. We also friends are. So give an example, we looked into construction and there was this huge percentage that construction industry is going to rise. So what courses do we currently have? Is there anything that we can go down through funding to what the guys to go out to jobs? So right, okay, so you give an example, very good example of how you're using it to benefit your clients. One thing to say is that it is quite vague, so I'm not surprised that you find it difficult to work out what it actually means. And the other thing is that the term labour market information and labour market intelligence, unfortunately, you've got the same thing everywhere. And they often used to do the same thing, but they don't actually do the same thing. So labour market information is things like how many people, specific jobs, whether there's vacancies around, things that we talk about there about finding gaps in prison climate to go into prison. So it's about what jobs there are, what jobs there are, what skills are there, things like salaries, basic stuff, basic information. And then labour market intelligence is about trends and changing. It's like the difference between speed and acceleration. Labour market information is the speed, but when we go to intelligence, we're looking at the changes in direction, the trees, does that make sense? I think that's enough of me there. It's cringeworthy watching yourself training, isn't it? But the reason I wanted to show you that was just to give you an idea of how the training session develops into worksheets that we would do together, and those worksheets turn into the assignments. And that's a typical group, you know, a nice small group with people from a variety of settings. Some of those are working in prisons and others are working in local authorities, and one's working in a university. So that's a typical sort of client group that we might have. And then moving on, sorry. Just before. And then this is Rich. Rich has really benefited from the networking and has found working with his group has improved his practice considerably. more so, and he says is more so than the training that he's had from his employer. But he actually he tells us himself, which is nice. So you can hear Rich.
Hello, Jane.
Yeah.
Sorry, could we pause that a second? I'm struggling to hear that. I wonder if we could re-share your screen and optimize it for sound, because I think we're hearing it through your computer, not straight from the
Right. Okay.
download. So if
Talk me through this.
Yeah. So if we stop your share, that's wonderful. Now share your screen again.
Yeah.
And when you click on the box, you'll see an option in the bottom left-hand corner to optimize for video and sound.
Oh, yes, you're right.
You click on those and start that again. I think we'll hear it better.
Right, okay. Oh, right. Show from current slide. There we go. Let's see if this is better. Thank you for that, Helen.
Pathway so that they don't end up back in prison.
Wonderful, much better.
This apprenticeship has helped me a lot, as it's given me a lot of knowledge that I didn't have before, or I kind of knew before, but I didn't know what it meant. And it's helping me gain a better understanding, which means I can give a better service to the people that I'm trying to help. The information that this apprenticeship has given me, it fits in really well with my role. It means we can all bounce ideas off each other to actually get, create a stronger environment when it comes to work. Don't
know whether he's stopped in his prime. Oh no, that was the end of him. Okay.
Hello.
And then this is another of our learners who's an older learner. Interesting, she's had a career break and then has come back into work, and she was very interested in careers and employability. That was what she was aiming to get into. She came back into it and actually chose the apprenticeship route in order to get what she wanted. And she's doing it through a local authority and an employability hub in Essex. So she's certainly doing very well, and was initially very apprehensive, having not studied for I think it was 25 years, she told me. So it was quite a shock coming into a job which was an apprenticeship, but she's doing great, and is finding it a good way to get into her career. The last one of our learners I wanted to highlight is another one of our People Plus learners who's also working in a prison. And she talks about the support that's available. And I think that's one of the main differences between an ordinary commercial course, which at White Rose we do as well, and the apprenticeship. There is an awful lot of support on the apprenticeship at very many different layers and levels. So you have lots of people to choose from to help you as you go through it. In her situation, she's given every other Friday morning off to do her assignments, and then the rest of her 20% of the time is training days and meetings with members of our team. But I think it's worth just looking at off the job in detail, because it is something that causes a lot of questions. This is the official diagram of what you can count as off the job from the Institute for Apprenticeships. So it tells you what you can count as that 20% off the job. And as I said, it's not as simple as it's one day a week. It's probably little bits all the way through the week that added together come up to about 20%. We certainly haven't had difficulty evidencing 20% with our learners. It's not been a problem yet, and we've been doing this for 4 years now. Okay, but that's just us. Now there are actually 24 organisations that provide the apprenticeship in Employability Practitioner. There's fewer than that do the career development professional, so which is the one that you would go on to afterwards. In fact, I think there are 9 at the moment, including us, that go on and deliver the higher one as well. But these are ones that, you know, should be offering a very similar service because we're all working to the same standard. But obviously, I know most about ours. And, you know, why would you pick White Rose Training? Basically because it's what we do. We've always delivered employability, careers, information, advice and guidance training. That's what I started the company to do 21 years ago. We are a little family-run business. Everybody that is on my senior management team has been with us for 15 years or more, so it's quite established. You get lots of support. You've got your trainer, which is sometimes me, sometimes one or another of my colleagues. You have an assessor, you have a coach, you have learner support, and we do something called a Friday Forward workshop, which is every Friday. We have an open WebEx that anybody can pop into to get help from a tutor. So you never have to go more than a week without having an answer to a question. And if you're interested, you know, contact Lucy on info@whiterosetraining.co.uk. That's a picture of her. And just to reinforce the fact that it's a family business, Lucy's my daughter. Okay. So, and I also employ my daughter-in-law, my granddaughter, and my husband. So, as I said, a family business, and those that aren't family, wow, they might as well be because I've known them for so long and we work together for
and you really are the matriarch, aren't you?
I know it's awful, isn't it? I do feel old.
No, it's wonderful. It's wonderful, and especially in Women's History Month, and then the week we've had International Women's Day. It's great to see. It's not awful at all. So fantastic. Thank you for that. I've just popped into the chat. Does anyone have any questions for Jane at the moment? Based around the apprenticeship at all? I think that's been a fantastic presentation and a fantastic exploration of what is it's a big piece of work, isn't it, the qualification? So I'm just wondering if anyone has any questions they'd like to put to Jane. It's okay if you don't. I can move on and talk a little bit about the level 3 and we can come back to questions at the end, but I did want to give people an opportunity to sort of ask in the moment if there was anything that immediately sprung to mind. I know we haven't given you a lot of time. I can see a message has come in. Excellent. So is it, Tano says, is it only open for members of the IEP?
Not at all. Though we would recommend that you are a member of the IEP, because there's an awful lot that you can do to augment the training that we deliver. So we definitely recommend that. In fact, we usually are quite forceful in insisting on that. Yeah.
Yeah, you enroll everyone. I was going to say, yeah, anyone who undertakes the apprenticeship becomes a member of the IEP. Yeah. So it's one of those added benefits that comes with it. And Sharon said nothing from her at the moment. It was very informative. Thank you, Jane. So that's nice. So I will carry on because I'm aware it's everyone's lunchtime, so I'm aware of that, and I will carry on. I'll tell you a little bit about the level 3, and there will be time for questions. So I'm going to encourage you all. Anyone thinks of anything, pop it in the chat now, and I will make sure that we have a time at the end to answer any questions that you have. I have popped my email address into chat in case anyone thinks of any questions or has any follow-ups, and me and Jane can answer them after the event. So I'm going to move my slide on, and of course my slide deck doesn't want to move on now because we have had a bit of a break. So I'm going to talk a little bit about, for some of you, when Jane said the apprenticeship is sort of 15 months to 2 years, some of you may have thought, wow, that's a long time. And you know, I get that, having studied myself, it can feel like a long time, but as you've seen, there's so much in there, and it really does prove your capability, and it's a fantastic packed course that that professionalizes, and it's great to do. However, if that's a bit much and you feel that you're not quite ready for that, maybe you're returning to studying and you want to start off with something, chunk it down a little bit, there is the IEP Level 3 certificate in employability practice. Now, again, we look at those clusters that the apprenticeship standard looks at, but we do it in a slightly different way, and we get you ready to move on to the apprenticeship standard if you choose to. So I just wanted to spend a little bit of time telling you a little bit about it and encouraging you to, again, to reach out should you want to find out a little bit more. So the Level 3 certificate in employability practice is accredited by the IEP and it's awarded by NCFE. It's between 9 to 12 months of study realistically, and it really focuses on the application of work in the workplace. It's very practical. It's about taking bite-sized pieces of learning and applying them straight away in your everyday role, and reflecting on what you've learned, what went well, what you could do differently, what can make it even better. If it works 80% of the time, what tools are you going to use that other 20% of the time, and helping you to really develop that practice, build your skills. It's designed for people who are newer to the sector, and there is a pre-entry requisite of completion of the Level 2 induction, because our Level 2 induction has lots of underpinning knowledge to support you with that. But again, the great thing is if you're enrolled on the Level 3 certificate in employability practice, you get IEP membership as part of it, and the induction is inclusive of all individual IEP memberships. It is assessed slightly differently to the apprenticeship in that there's not an endpoint assessment and at the end of the programme. It's assessed throughout the programme, so you would work with an assessor and maybe even a tutor to do individual pieces of learning, gather evidence as you go, and have that evidence assessed and feedback given throughout the process. And we'll talk about the structure of that a little bit more in a moment, but it's broken down, the qualification is broken down into 4 key areas that you can see on the screen. Unit 1 focuses on contracting, so that boundary setting, the start of the relationship, the start of the ongoing relationship with a programme participant, action planning and caseload management. So really getting those underpinning behaviours and your knowledge in place. Unit 2 focuses on interpersonal coaching and facilitation skills. Sorry, I paused there because I could see a question from Nigel. Nigel's just asked, are there any other entry requirements such as time in the sector and experience, etc.? No. If you've just joined the sector and you have completed the Level 2, the only other thing I would say you absolutely need is to be caseloaded. So even if it's a very small caseload because you're new to the sector, but have someone to work with, because all of the content is very much geared around how do you interact with your customers. So that would be the only other requirement really, is those participants to work with as you work through the qualification. So Unit 2 is around those skills, those sort of some technical skills like questioning skills, but then some of the more competence-led coaching skills is covered in that. Facilitation skills, maybe you want to work with groups of people on your caseload, and how do you go about doing that? Unit 3 is fantastic. It's so exciting. It's around supporting informed decision making. So this is really the ethics of the role, exploring how do we manage risk? How do we support people in making good, ethical decisions that will work for them in the long term, helping them not just into a job, but into a career that's right for them, and supporting them on that journey. Understanding the community around us when we're working with our programme participants. How can that help us to support people in achieving their goals and even identifying their goals? I mean, it can be challenging for some people, especially if they've always worked in a sector where there are no jobs at the moment. So it can be a real challenge to understand what's out there and how they can identify those transferable skills. So Unit 3 is about supporting people on that journey. And then Unit 4 is around that finding and competing for work, but not just the old-fashioned, here's a CV workshop. How do you support someone find work in the post-COVID era, in this digital era where they may be coming on to a Zoom session or a Teams interview? How do you support someone in something that might be really different for them? So those are the 4 key areas. Obviously, there's lots more learning outcomes and assessment criteria within them. How do we deliver the learning for the CERT EP, as I refer to it? Well, it's very blended. So we have e-learning, so small, sharp, bite-sized chunks of e-learning that really cover just 1 or 2 assessment criteria, 1 or 2 learning outcomes at a time, and then an opportunity to go and do some self-directed learning and some work-based application of the learning to allow you to consolidate the knowledge that you picked up in the e-learning and actually start to develop and build those skills. And then there are also elements of classroom and collaborative learning. So this is really cohort-based learning, working with people who are at the same point of the qualification as yourself to compare, to discuss, to reflect together, to explore the content, to get more depth. As I said earlier, if something's working for the majority of you 80% of the time, what do you do in that other 20%? Sharing best practice and reflecting on different ways of doing things. So that's how it, and as I say, you have an assessor that you work with and tutors and support, and they will be there with you all along the way. And as your evidence is gathered, it's marked and you are given feedback on that throughout the way. So if you've not quite got something or you just need to gather a little bit more evidence, your assessor will support you with doing that. I could talk about this all day and I won't, because I know everyone's probably hungry and want to get back, although there's some cameras off today, so I suspect people are eating while we're talking today, Jane, which is exactly what I would be doing if I wasn't talking. But I did want to share some feedback. Now, the certificate in employability practice is a new qualification. It's brand new to the sector, and we're really excited about it, that we've just had our first group of learners complete. 17 people have just completed. They are our pioneers, the first people that have completed. And one of our new pioneers, and I've popped her name on here, I did ask her permission, Jodie Cox from CTEC Outsource, who is a member of the IEP and can now put CERT EP after her name because she has a certificate in employability practice. And what she said about this qualification, well, you can see it on the screen, you don't really need me to read it to you, but I will. The qualification has really supported me to provide the highest level of service to my participants and learners. It has supported me to effectively differentiate my learning to meet the needs of each individual and improve the overall journey of supporting people back into the workplace. And that's really wonderful to hear. That's what we want to support people with doing. I've got a slide there. I should have hidden that. That was Jane's. But yeah, so that's what our learners are saying about the qualification. I can see Zane and Idil have done laughing faces. I'm assuming that's about lunch, not the feedback comment that I've read out. I'm a bit paranoid there, but that's absolutely fine. So yeah, so really, I know that's a whirlwind through the level 3. We do have brochures that we can send out. One thing I haven't mentioned so far is how it's delivered. The IEP work with delivery partners to deliver the level 3 certificate in employability practice. And for those of you who are interested in finding out more, if your organization doesn't offer it, there are other organizations that will. White Rose are coming on board at the moment, so very soon I'll be able to say Jane can, but we have other organizations that do as well. So again, you can contact me and I can send you information on that. Sharon said, can we jump straight to level 4? Yes, you can. I was stealing Jane's question there. I'm really sorry, Jane. Yes, you can. If you feel that that's what you want to do, you could go straight from the level 2 onto the level 4. And obviously, because it's an apprenticeship, it can be levy funded. So if that's what you feel you want to do, absolutely you can. Or you could also complete the level 3 and then move on and have your learning recognised with your RPL. Yeah. I always, recognition of prior learning. I always say RPL and then I forget what it means, but you can. And is it fully funded? If you're working for a levy, I should let Jane do this because she'll be so much better than me. If your organisation is a levy paying, it should be fully funded. If not, Jane, over to you around funding.
If they're not a levy organisation, then it's 5% of the value of the apprenticeship. And now I can't remember how much it is, but that means it's something like about £400 or £500 for the full apprenticeship cost.
Fantastic. Excellent. So I can't see any of the questions at the moment, but I know I go at 100 miles an hour and then people are trying to catch up. So I do wonder, does anyone have any of the questions for us at the moment? So it really is, it is exciting. I think they really are. The IEP obviously was involved as the Trailblazer group that developed the apprenticeship, and it really is a fantastic program of learning. Oh, Anna said she can't see my email address. So Anne, I will retype it for you so you have it, because it was right at the start. So let me just pop into the chat. And the easiest one to remember, it's a bit tricky and I always worry I'm going to type my email address wrong. So I have to be very careful when I do it. There you go. I'm just looking. I can't see any typos. There's learning@iemployability.org, or alternatively, you can get me on helen.lee it's the iEmployability. I know I'm with sector people here. So does anyone else find typing employability quickly really challenging? I know I always do. And spell checkers always pick it up. So it's always a challenge because you don't know if you've done it wrong or whether it's just that the spell checker doesn't get it. So yeah, I'm always available to share information on these should you have any questions afterwards. As I say, we do have marketing that we can send out. And said many thanks, so she's got that. But I think if there's no other questions at the moment, we will wind today's session up. And I very much hope to hear from you all soon and then answer any of the questions that you may have around the qualifications, or get you enrolled on the next piece of learning for you on your IEP accredited learning journey. So thank you very much, Jane.
You're welcome.
Today. Tano says, thank you. I've emailed some questions. Wow, I will get on to that this afternoon then. Oh, I can't keep up now. Annette said, thank you very much. All looks very exciting. It is very exciting. And I really, I can't say this enough. Me and Jane and the rest of the IEP Learning Academy team are more than happy to have one-to-one conversations with you. Should you want to have a discussion around which fits you better, the level 3 or the level 4, absolutely. We can do that one-to-one. Lorna says, thank you very much. Very informative. Chrissy says, thank you. Shazia says thank you. Elizabeth says thank you. Lots of smiley faces. And so I think we'll finish there. Thank you. And for those of you who come regularly, because there are some familiar faces, we have got next week, we're joined by Chris Blackwell, who's going to be talking to us about purpose-led performance. That's a bit of a tongue twister for me on a lunchtime, and that will be our 103rd IEP LiveLearnLunch. The following week we have the Good Employability Company coming back to join us for another one. Those of you who've been on any of David's sessions will know that they're always very interactive, and they are always, should we say, we really get the grey matter going. We ask some controversial questions, and we challenge ourselves to look at the sector from lots of different angles. And the week after that, we're going to be joined by Liz Sewell, another fellow from Bellina Grow, who is going to be talking to us about inclusion and flexible working. So that's one not to be missed. So thank you all for your time today. I hope it's still sunny where you all are. And I hope with this extra 15 minutes that you've blocked out of your day, you can go outside and enjoy some of the sunshine while we have it. Have a wonderful week, everybody.